CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.
Welcome to yet another episode with me, Prof Moyo, on our Conversations on African Philanthropy. We are shooting this episode from Mombasa, from the beach, what is it called, by the way? This hotel?
Marina English Point.
From the English Point Marina Hotel in Mombasa. I'm very excited this evening to be joined by Hassan Mikazi. Yeah. Hassan is the Regional Chairperson of Tanzania Albinism Society. Hassan, thank you for joining us. And you actually spoke today at our event, and we are meeting here, obviously, to discuss the role that the non-profit sector plays in creating dignified and fulfilling jobs.
Yes.
And you're on a panel today that looked at the role of the non-profit sector in creating decent and fulfilling jobs. But let's start with the organization that you are representing, the Tanzania Society, Albinism Society.
Yes.
For those that have not come across you, what do you do? What is the organization's mission? What does it seek to achieve?
Okay.
And then are there any other, maybe initiatives that you want to showcase?
Okay. Thank you for these opportunities. As I mentioned, my name is Hassan Mikazi. I'm working as a Regional Chairperson of Tanzania Albinism Society, Morogoro branch. I'm here to participate on youth employment inclusion, particularly the contribution of non-profit sectors on contributing with the employment for youth here in Mombasa at Marina Hotel. So I'm so excited to meet with other stakeholders for the non-profit sectors. So Tanzania Albinism Society is a non-government organization, a non-profit making organization dedicated to empower, support and protecting people with albinism in Tanzania. So the organization established this many years ago, since 1980. Yes, so the initiative came after people with albinism have been discriminated in the communities. So the people with albinism, for that time, they decide to have an organization, that is association, which can protect and then can help to voice up their voices within the country. So the organization is growing up, and now, as I'm speaking here, we have covered all Tanzania mainland. So we are working to support, protect, and empower people with disability, with albinism, in the main focusing areas. The main focusing area is advocacy. So we advocate for the right of the person with albinism and their families, and also we advocate for the policies to make sure that the policies and regulation of the country is more inclusive for the right and dignity of the person with albinism in Tanzania. And also the organization focus on education. As we know, education is the key for the human development. So as the organization, we advocate to make sure that every child with albinism got education in different levels, from the kindergarten to the higher education levels. And also we advocate on the economic empowerment through various interventions, including the entrepreneurship skills, job replacement, and also we advocate for the inclusivity in the workplace. And also we make sure that the conducive environment in place where people with albinism are working, because people with albinism is the kind among the people with disabilities, and they have barriers, some attitudinal barriers, even the biological barriers. So due to that, we as organization, we are frontline to make sure that those in the working place are conducive for them to work. And also we create awareness among the Tanzanians to understand the real concept of the albinism, because in many countries, especially in Africa, people have a different perception towards person with albinism. Some communities believe people with albinism are caste, and others believe people with albinism are not are human as the other human beings. So that's perception sometimes hinder the opportunities whereby people with albinism can get.
Right.
So as an organization, we stand at the beacon in the front line to make sure that people with albinism are known and accepted in the communities. As you know, in Tanzania and East Africa, I think past decade, people with albinism have been killed. Especially in Tanzania, the rate is higher compared to other countries in Africa. So as an organization, we advocate for the lives of the person with albinism in Tanzania to make sure that people with albinism are still safe, has been not killed, and also their right is in place in terms of the regulations, in terms of the policies, and in terms in the interaction in the community. That is our organization do. And also we advocate for the health inclusion, because biologically, persons with albinism are more likely to be affected by the skin cancers. So in the rate of the skin cancers in Africa, especially to those equatorial countries, because the sun is too hot, and the most person who are affected by the skin cancer are persons with albinism. So as an organization, we make sure we advocate for the health inclusion for the person with albinism, for them to be safe from the skin cancer. So through those initiatives and advocacies, we succeed to reach some successful stories. For instance, in Tanzania, we have a national act of disability. So from 2010, the government established the Disability Act number 9. So the disabilities provide some opportunities of the person with disabilities, including people with albinism. And one of the opportunities is the right to work in decent environment. So the Act says every private and government employers who have employs more than 20 employees, the 3% should be people with disabilities. So as an organization, we take that opportunity to make sure that people with albinism, especially youth, have an equal chance to get an opportunities of employed by the government and non-profit sectors, and even in the enterprises. But also in terms of education, we have a policy of inclusive education. That before that, people with albinism are termed as the blind because of the low vision. So sometimes they taken in the special school and to read for themselves. But this is creating the stigmatization and discrimination in the community, because when they finish maybe their education level, then when they come back to the community maybe to work, they
then there's no
it is
integration.
difficult for them to get a job because people, they didn't know. They see as a stranger in the community. Sometimes people call him Muzungu or whatever because they didn't know well who is this, because we are African and we expect to be black person. So through these policies on education now, people with albinism are still studying in the public school with the mixed, with a person with albinism and non-student without albinism. So this contributes to the increase the understanding rate of the issues of the albinism in the country, and also reduce the discrimination and the stigmatizing in the communities. So,
so maybe before we proceed, there are a number of issues that I want to unpack with you. So the first, I'm excited about this conversation because I want us to use it as an educational platform for people who may not actually know what albinism is, but also who may not even appreciate the circumstances that you are describing now. So from a basic point of view, what would you define as albinism?
Okay, albinism, originally the word albinos or albinism came from Latin words, means albus. It means the colorless. The colorless means the white color. So but the word person with albinism in Swahili we call watu wenye ualbino, people with albinism. And biologically, this is a genetic disorders whereby albinism is a lack of melanin pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. So those who lack their origin skin color termed as a person with albinism. So, but the albinism is divided into two types. The first one is called cutaneous albinism, and the second one is called ocular albinism. So the ocular cutaneous albinism means those peoples who affected with the lack of melanin in the skin, eyes and hair. So but ocular albinism affected only the eyes. So you can meet a person who the light is the color is black, but the eyes look like the eyes of Muzungu or the white person. Yes, and maybe experiencing with a low vision. So they can't see normally, but maybe to use some devices. So
in simple terms, you and I could be sitting like this. You could be albino. I could also be albino. But except that my eyes will be the only things that make me.
But in order a person to get albinism or a child albinism to be born, must be those parents carry the recessive genes of albinism.
So it's hereditary.
But there is no way if a mother have albinism genes and a father have not albinism gene to get a child with albinism. So the causes of the albinism should be both, mother and father to carry the recessive genes of albinism. So the shortly, albinism is a lack of pigmentation in the skin color.
So the second question related to the definition and what you said earlier. So why is a person living with albinism categorized as a person living with disability?
Yes, this is according to the when you pass through on the UN Declaration of the Person with Albinism, you see CRPD, Convention on the Right of the Person with Disabilities, define disability as the condition whereby people cannot fit as other person due to the barriers, either the barriers of the environment or barriers the biological or the barriers of the institution. So people with albinism, because have a low vision, cannot see other in normal ways. And also, when we pass through in the sun, we are likely to be affected by the skin cancer. And we can't walk without covered with the protective gears, like maybe a long sleeve, clothes, or sunglasses, and even blend hats. So that's why we included in the group of people with disabilities. So that is a reason.
So a person like me right now, with low vision, do I qualify to be categorized as somebody living with disability?
Yes, of course. If your eyesight cannot perform without supportive device, so can group D in disability, because the disability is, simple definition, a person to fail to perform the same a person without any maybe supportive aids. So even but in the general definition, everyone is a kind of disability, but it depends where and how can happen. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think I wanted us to do this basic definition and discussion, because all of us actually, when you define it this way now, it's easier for us to even begin to see the loopholes in how people actually end up creating myths, about people living with albinism.
Of course.
So if it is a disability that we have just described, for example, vision. And a lot of us are living with that disability, and yet we are not discriminated against. So let's get into some of the myths and some of the misconceptions that people have about somebody living with albinism. You started talking about some of them, that in some quarters you are not considered as human, in some quarters this and so forth. What are the traditional and most used misconceptions about somebody living with albinism?
Yeah, there is a lot of misconception towards person with albinism, especially in Africa, but it depends on the community itself. But most communities believe person with albinism are not a human, because we are black, and why we get a child without a color of our origin as Africans. So some people terms as maybe this is a ghosty, or this is not a normal person. So that is some communities believe that, and other myself believe maybe when you get a body parts of the person with albinism in a way of a miracle use or witchcraft, so people can get a wealth, can get a rich, can get a job, can get a maybe certified in terms of education levels or in terms of economic power. Even in the politicians can get maybe a position, a better position. So people with albinism mostly affected in terms of killings, sometimes in killings in the ground, and the others when the first, maybe when it is born, when the family recognize this a kid is have albinism, maybe they thrown to the ocean or to the rivers. That is belief which is the myth in the country. And the other, for instance, when some communities, even in Tanzania, believe that maybe if you have an HIV, then you have maybe sexual intercourse with a person with albinism can be cured from the disease. So that is another myth in the communities. And also people maybe believe that a person with albinism or a child with albinism has not mental fit. So that's why he cannot go to school, cannot go maybe to be a leader or to take a position in the community, because they think maybe his mind is not fit like other people in the community. So that is some myths, but there is a lot of mice in the community.
Yeah.
And the other families, they describe person with albinism, maybe it is can see better at night rather than a day.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes maybe a family, they are afraid maybe to send their school to the kid to the school because they see maybe my children cannot see at a daylight, but maybe in the night can see well. That is a myth concerning the.
But most of the things that you have just said, all of them are they are just perceptions that are based on lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that a lot of this can be resolved, maybe not 100%, but it simply means that societies just need to have organizations like yourselves to bring this education, because a lot of what you just described as misconceptions, there's no science to it.
Yes, there is no scientifically those are myths against people with albinism, but the truth is that person with albinism is the same as a human being, but the difference is the how he is looking. As we are differ, we can meet a person with a fat person, with a tall and someone short. So that is the difference. That is biologically, but in terms of thinking, in terms of working, in terms of interacting, the same. Yes, so, there is no difference.
So what would you say? What would you say have been the changes that you have seen coming of age from so many years? When all these things were happening. They're still happening, like you said, in some countries like Tanzania. I know in Malawi it was also a big deal. But what would you say? Because I know there are other institutions that work on these issues, Amnesty International and many others. I know there are reports that I think last year Amnesty produced a report in defense of albinism. What would you say have been some of the changes that you have noticed, progressive changes, in terms of reversing those perceptions, those misconceptions?
Of course, there is a progress on issues of the albinism. For instance, when you come back on 10 or 20 years ago, you can't see a school with the person with albinism. But currently, you can go to universities, the higher levels of the education institution, you may find a person with albinism. Even in Tanzania, the rate of students with albinism who are pursuing their studies in different institutions, academic institutions, are higher. Even now, our government appointed some key readers with albinism. Currently, we have a country chief advocate for the government is a person with albinism. And I'm speaking now the someone called Dr. Post. He is the permanent ambassador of Tanzania in Belgium, the person with albinism. Yes, and also we have politicians like parliamenters and the other persons with albinism in Tanzania have been taking place in the government position, even in the public sectors and also private sectors are people with albinism. And also the progress based on the awareness in the communities. For instance, when I'm young, when I'm passing maybe to the communities, people call hey Muzungu, we call this white bush or Muzungu Pori. But currently, the names like that you can't see anywhere in the communities. And the support who people with albinism get from the government and the public sectors is the rate is high. So, for instance, in Tanzania, there is a lot of organizations who are working the person with albinism. For instance, we have a Standing Voice UK, Standing Voice under the same sun, and the other organizations who are invest a lot to support people with albinism. That is the result of our advocate. But for the 20 years ago, we have the only us in Tanzania who are fighting for the right of the person with albinism. So now the progress is going on, and even the reform of the laws and regulation. Policies, for instance, Tanzania have been signed and ratified the International Convention of the Right of the Person with Albinism, and became the specific right of the people with disability in Tanzania. And now, as a country, we are on finalizing the national action plan on the right of the person with albinism in Tanzania.
Okay, so you spoke earlier about policies that have created space for inclusion, integration, access. You talked about health, you talked about education. I want to ask you a bit about the justice, access to justice. What's the situation there? Are the policies and laws progressive enough for you to use the justice systems in cases, for example, where you are targeted? You talked about some of the
abducted,
abductions, killings, and all of those.
The access to justice is still challenging because this incident happened based on the attitudinal issues traditionally. So people who are dealing with those crimes, they done as a traditional. So it is difficult to prosecutors to detect who is Didi, who is what is happening, and it depends on the witnesses to come in public and to say this one he's committed this crime. So sometimes that is a one of the challenge. But when you see the laws and regulation, they still inclusion because they notice specifics for the person with albinism, but is generally for anyone the right of life. So even in Tanzania we have a constitution and speak openly about the right of life for everyone, and every person is equal and treated equally before the law. So when the comes of the incident of the killings or abducted of the body part of the person with albinism, so the procedures to dealing the such cases is the same. There is no special one, but maybe sometimes comes with maybe special consideration but, from the prosecutors and end the court of law. But at the end of the day, most cases they not end finally because the witnesses they fail to come before the court and to present what is happening in the ground. So because of the miss, because the people who are sometimes killing people with albinism believe this is not a person, and most of them, most cases, the one who are participating in killing, they are nearby neighbors, family members. So a father, for instance, recent cases happening in Kagera region. One of the person who are dealing with the killing. He's a father,
Yeah.
and sometimes maybe the neighbors. So it is difficult to track
And apprehend them, because the community protects them.
Yes, but the most tools that we are using is to create awareness, to shape the mindset of the communities to understand this albinism is a person like other person. There is no contribution to the wealth or to get a job or any kind of power.
So maybe one last area for me to try and ask you about is also access to the job market. I mean, clearly with those perceptions, even though they are changing, employers might also be biased. They might also have their own misconceptions, especially around the capacity of people living with albinism to perform like everyone else, either from the perspective of sight, the perspective of weather conditions and all of those things. So what has that space been like, access to the job market and the attitudes of employers?
Even though there is act and policies emphasizing on the equal chance to persons with albinism to be employed, but the number of employers to employ the person with albinism and people with disabilities is too low. There are some factors contributing to that. Mostly, there is the barriers in terms of working place environment. So sometimes the employers are afraid to employ people with disabilities, particularly persons with albinism, because they think when they employ maybe a person with albinism, they need to add some budgets to accommodate to accommodate employers with disabilities, and others they believe maybe person with disabilities cannot perform maybe well compared to other people, but the education is still needed the awareness is still needed to those employers to make sure that person with disability can work, but to provide conducive environment is a fundamental right. So everyone should be work in the safe place, conducive place. So it depends what the needs. That is the different from maybe a person with disability and the other stuff without with disability. But because we constructed our environment without consider the inclusion. That's why now we see there is a cost for maybe to reconstruct the environment to accommodate both of us. Because when you come the issue of disabilities, so is not granted, because everyone can get at any time. Because sometimes you can say maybe I'm not a disability today, but tomorrow you can have a disability and still you depend on the same environment. So inclusive accessibility is very important, without considering whether you have disability today or not. But because we are human beings and we are working with the environment, to consider the inclusion is very important. Even in the employment for youth, particularly person with albinism, is very important, because they have right to be employed, because they have right to work. They have right to get those rights as a person who are not.
I want us to end quite now, but before we do that, what are the challenges that your organization is currently facing, and in the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think will be the key issues that you'll be focusing on? So let's start with challenges first. And
the challenges facing with our organization, other organization we face, because there is a low awareness of the issues related with albinism.
Yeah.
And as an organization, we have limited financial support because we are non-profit organization, and we didn't get any kind financial support from the government directly.
Yeah.
So we depend with the donation from the communities, from the organization, donors. So sometimes limit our scope of work to perform or to meet the larger number of people in especially to the remote areas.
Yeah.
But the second one, the organization the challenge is the perception or discrimination in the communities. Sometimes when you go to some communities, you speak up about albinism, they feel like maybe you are there as the prosecutors. Maybe you find them to criminalize them. Maybe you want some. Maybe you find something hidden. So it spend a lot of time to create awareness, who you are, what you want to support, person with albinism, and also at the organization because we are working as a voluntary. So sometimes people we lack some human resources in the organization. So mostly we depend on volunteers from the universities or communities to support our intervention. Yes, that is our main challenge.
So Hassan, as we close, there is the camera.
Yes.
What are the 2 or so messages that you want to leave behind for the audience?
Okay. I welcome everyone all over the world to work with Tanzania Albinism Society in order to portray the real conception of the person with albinism and to end those discrimination against persons with albinism, and to support Tanzania Albinism Society on inclusion of the person with albinism, for them to get equal chance in the communities, equal right in the communities, and at the end of the day to create the world environment where everyone can work. Yes.
Thank you so much, Hassan. I know we're doing this under special conditions. We are doing this just overlooking the sea here.
Yes.
But also we just pulled you out of the conversation that was happening. But thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was Hassan Mikazi, who is the Regional Chairperson of Tanzania Albinism Society, but the Morogoro branch. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.